Hello friends, this is Ganesh. Hope you're doing well. And in this session, I'm going to explain the another concept in Adobe as interactive Adobe form. Probably I may have two or three videos on this part. So this is the part one. And in this, we are going to learn Adobe, how to consume Adobe in the Web Dynpro component. So it's not a big deal. And it's not you have very good knowledge in Web Dynpro to understand this interactive Adobe form concept. In a very simple way, I'm going to have a Web Dynpro component, and in that component, I'm going to map my Adobe forms. So very simple. And in this session, I'm going to show you how to map your Adobe into the Web Dynpro component. That is the first level. And second scenario is I'm going to show you in the same process. I'm going to show you how to fill the data from the Web Dynpro method level. So maybe initialization method level. It's not a real time. It's not at the runtime. I'm going to get the value, and based on that is Adobe is going to pop up. That is not in this particular video. Probably in the following videos we can try to achieve it. So for this very basic idea of Web Dynpro is more than enough. It's quite easy to understand the Web Dynpro even if you don't have any idea of or any exposure of Web Dynpro. So Web Dynpro it's like nothing but a Dynpro, right? Dynpro is nothing but a screen development. It's coming inside the GUI. So Web Dynpro is nothing but the same kind of a screen design, but it's going to be exposed or it's going to be executed in the browser level. So not inside the GUI. So mostly for the third-party system who doesn't have an SAP access. So for those people, basically this Web Dynpro it works well. Okay, so basically it's a screen design. So screen design, you have a layout, you have a context, and you have a component. Same like same like a Dynpro, you have Web Dynpro, maybe a little more concepts also involved. Okay, so the basic idea is you have a place called layout where you can design it. Same like how we are using a container concept in Dynpro model programming to achieve a object-oriented ALV. So same way we are going to use one component in Web Dynpro called interactive form, especially to have the Adobe on it. So we are going to use that component and we are going to map the Adobe which is going to be displayed in the browser level. So that is the basic idea of how we are achieving the interactive Adobe form. Okay, so let's start from the slides. So here I'm going to explain, I'm going to use standard Adobe forms. Could be very easy to just use it because custom, it's not big difference between standard and custom. So once you start standard, you might have, by default, you might have more fields to just pass the values. Okay, so that is one of the reason which use very simple standard Adobe which I'm going to use in this particular session. Okay, so the process wise it's same for standard and custom Adobe forms. So let's get into the slide first. So first thing is the blue layer I consider or I pointed out, that is a Web Dynpro component. So inside the Web Dynpro component I'm going to keep my Adobe form. Okay, so technically I'm going to map it. So what is the name of your Adobe? So how the context is work between the Adobe and Web Dynpro. So how the data flow is happening between Web Dynpro and your Adobe. So everything is going to be explained in this particular session. So that is the basic idea. So maybe two different objects. So here I'm going to use a standard Adobe form. So it's already available, it's designed. If it is a custom, you have to keep the Adobe ready. Maybe if you start from the scratch, keep your interface ready, keep your Adobe ready with all the designs. Okay, so then we are going to map your Adobe and make sure the Adobe is activated in that particular Adobe inside your Web Dynpro component. Okay, so the first step would be keep your Adobe ready. So yeah, this is the one. Keep your Adobe ready with the interface, context, layout. These we explained already in the previous videos. And then now I'm going to go with a Web Dynpro level. So if you're very new to Web Dynpro, the transaction to create a Web Dynpro is SE80. In SE80, you have an option called Web Dynpro component or interface, I'm not sure, is where you can able to find the program, function module, inactive objects, function group. So same thing, right? AC80 is a workbench where you can create anything about any object inside your SAP product. So that is the same transaction you're going to use for Web Dynpro as well. So once you select that and you just create one Web Dynpro component, so by default you will get a controller, you get a view, so very basic things you will get it. Then after that, by default you'll get one main view, but name itself is main. So inside the main view you have a layout option, you have a context option, and you have methods. So Web Dynpro is mostly run by object-oriented concepts. So most of the methods are coming under in that main view. So mostly we are going to run through with the main view, only that particular main view for this particular scenario. So the main view in the layout, you have to design it. Just one component I'm going to design is nothing but an interface form. Just only one component, no other buttons or input fields for today's scenario, just one component. Okay, and in that component just add an element type, just component, but the element type should be an interactive form, like input field, button, same way the element type is interactive form. And once you added it, the properties of the particular component, if required, you can just make a change on it. I want to bigger size, width, height, or some other property to be changed. I want a tooltip, so something like that. Okay, so all properties, or it's optional, so depends on that. You can just make some notes or just make some entries of the properties field of your component. And there are two properties in that. One of the property is data source, and another one of the property is template source. Okay, so this data sources can be determined automatically. For that, we have to, or the system use the value which as a developer we are entering in the template source. So template source is a field which accepts your Adobe forms. It may be your custom or it may be your standard form. So, okay, whatever form you want to include in the Web Dynpro component, that particular name to be entered in the template source property. Once you entered, then the data source is automatically determined based on your value. It's very simple. It's going to be the value of data source is going to be name of the view, main dot, and the Adobe name. So that automatically generated in the particular field. Okay, and so once it is done, so because I'm going to just display the Adobe first scenario, second scenario I'm going to pass a value. So first scenario, once the template source is done, it automatically generates the data source. We are good. So create an application as you are new to Web Dynpro, like a program, if you execute, you will get an output screen. But in Web Dynpro, you have to create an application for your components or Web Dynpro component. So once you have an application, then you're able to execute it. Okay, so that is a simple step to create an application for Web Dynpro. Once the application is ready, just execute it, and the execution, your component output will open in the browser. Okay, just browser it opens. How you design, the same design is open in the just a browser, not in your SAP GUI screen. Okay, and then okay, so this is I can say scenario one, which I'm going to explain today in the system. And the second scenario, as a continuation of this, I'm going to pass a value from the Web Dynpro method. Again, it's going to be a compile time code, is not the runtime. So in the initialization method, there is an initialization method for the main view. In that method, inside the method, I'm going to trigger some values based on my form. The form which I'm going to use is a supply list form. What is the product order, what is the material, and what is the item. It's just a slip. Okay, in that I'm going to populate some values. So based on the design, it's a standard form. Based on the design, I'm just hard code some values inside my program, inside the method, especially Web Dynpro method. Okay, so that is the second case in today's video, and the same thing I'm going to follow till this level. It's same, and in the main view there is a method called WDDOINIT. In that I'm going to write the value, just pass a value for my Adobe forms. Simple. Okay, and one additional point over here, if you want to just go through, or you want to switch from Web Dynpro to Adobe, just double click the value, means Adobe name which you given in the template source property. Just double click, it will take you to the Adobe forms. Okay, if you want, you can open another session, the SFP, and just open the Adobe forms, or if you double click, it will take you to the Adobe form. Just an I can say confirmation, yes, the binding or mapping is done perfectly between Web Dynpro and Adobe. Okay, and then yeah, this is the one I'm going to use. It's a goods issue slip. I think I mentioned wrongly. Okay, it's a goods issue slip with a standard Adobe form. It's PPI underscore good underscore ISS underscore SL. This is the one I'm going to use for today's example. Then yeah, that's it. So the slide, just ignore it. Okay. Okay, let's see the two scenarios in the system. So this is my system. I'm going to start with Web Dynpro Component because I have already I have the standard Adobe form. Anyway, I'm going to use the standard one, so I don't want to create anything in SFP transaction. So AC80. So if you want just see the output of the Adobe, just go to SFP and execute it. At least you will see the output of the standard Adobe form. Okay, so here I'm going to give this option, Web Dynpro component or interface, what you want to create in AC80. I'm going to create ZGI interface 1. Okay, so it shows it's not available. Do you want to create? Yes, I want to create it. And what is the description? Web Dynpro for Adobe display. Okay, and continue. So window name and view name, or by default it's take whatever I have entered. That's fine. We're not going to very keen about Web Dynpro in this particular video. And by default, you will get a component controller, component interface, interface views, and windows. Okay, so hope if I start Web Dynpro series, probably I will explain all this once. So now I'm going to see only this main view. Just double click. So you will get some tabs over here, properties, layout, plugs, context, attributes, action, and method. So mostly we are going to play around with layout and methods. And by default, it's in a display mode. Just change it. Okay, and this is a root UI element container. This is the base for all the components for the layout. So here I'm going to do a right click, insert element. So the element name as Adobe, or I can say Adobe form, and the type is interface form, right? So here, sorry, interactive form, not interface, interactive form, and continue. So by default, you will get some component or Adobe image, and if you see the properties, drill down over here, you'll see the properties of this component. Okay, like data source is auto generated, currently it's empty, and display type enabled. I'm not going to give anything over here. Field name, form language, height and width, I'm fine with height and width now, and job profile, the PDF source, read only. So a lot of options once you start working with the business scenario with the interactive. Probably you might need to enter the values over here, and I'm going to use only this part, template source. Okay, so I'm going to enter the Adobe name, which I explained. Let's start with PPP. So it's PPP star F4 and this one. Okay, PDF form for goods issue slip. Just enter it. Okay, then it will ask, it's like the context is going to be generated based on your inputs with the Web Dynpro component. Are you okay? Sorry, are you okay with that? You can say yes, probably is for in the initial stage. No means it won't create it. Manually, you have to create the context. So probably that we will see once you start the Web Dynpro level. So now we want to go with the system generation. So click S. Okay, so it's done. And if you come and see the data source, you are able to see the view name and your Adobe name. Okay, and let me save this. Now if you double click in the template source, it just take you to the Adobe form. So probably it's a standard one, that's what it shows. This is a standard Adobe form. So if you want to see the output, just an output of the Adobe form, execute, print preview. So as my rental system doesn't have Adobe, so it's always as the option like you want to open or save the PDF. So this is the design of the Adobe output PDF form. So currently nothing is passed, so that's what all is empty. If you passed any value, automatically it will generate. So this was I'm going to display in the Web Dynpro component level. Okay, just close it. So go back because I came here through double click from the Web Dynpro component. So I want to go back to the Web Dynpro. Yes. Okay. So almost we are done. So because I'm not going to do anything, right? I want to just display that Adobe form in my Web Dynpro component. So I'm going to activate it. So you need to activate the entire Web Dynpro component. So you have lot. Okay, otherwise you will get an error. So you have to activate all together component controller, view, main view, as well as your Web Dynpro name, means Web Dynpro component. Just continue and make sure it's active properly. Yes. So now you don't have an execute button because it won't execute directly. You need to create an application for your component, Web Dynpro component. So right click, create Web Dynpro application. So some descriptions, application, that's fine. Just save it, continue, local object, just saved. Okay, and no activate required for an application. And execute. It opens a browser. As I mentioned, I don't have an Adobe, that's why it says always open. Otherwise, it's open your Adobe form in the application itself. And just click open. So it's just opened. Okay, so this is my first step. I connected an Adobe with a Web Dynpro component and it's displayed my PDF output. So now one step ahead, I'm going to pass some values. Okay, so if any change happens in your Web Dynpro Adobe, just come and refresh here. It's not required every time you have to go and run the application or execute the application. Just refresh your browser. Whatever you change, it's reflect in your output. So now I'm going to enter some values to the process order number. I'm going to hard code it, okay, and something in the item. So there are two, technically there are two things. This is a header, this is the item, and this has a work area and this has an internal table by default in the Adobe design. Okay, so I'm going to pass one record, I'm going to go pass multiple values over here. Let's see how it behaves. So for that, I need to go to my main view. And in the main view, I have a method, the tab called method. In that method, I'm going to use this method, WDDOINIT. It's an initialization method. So by default, before your Web Dynpro executes, this method should be triggered. So same like PBO, I can say. So here I'm going to enter some values to populate the values for my PDF. So before that, if you want to see some technical details, so what is header, what is item and everything, you can go to the context where you can able to see the technical details or the technical fields you're able to see of your Adobe. And this generate because of the pop-up it asked. So do you want this context to be generated by the system? I said yes. Because of that, it got generated, and this is the header information. I gone through the standard Adobe, so I just came to know this is the header and this is the item. Okay, so CAUFT is going to be the fields which are going to be used for the header information, and this one is going to be used for item. So you can have one record for this, and you can have multiple record for this technically. Okay, so then go to methods. So CAUFVD RESBD. So now what I need is data work area for CAUFVD, type CAUFVD, and I need an internal table. Even though if it is a header, why it's need a body of an internal table? Reason behind us. So I'm going to use a method and a method which accepts the data for Adobe, and that accepts only internal table by default. It won't accept the work area. Even though your Adobe Forms has header information, it accepts one record, but the particular parameter is designed as an body of internal table. So the formal parameter is going to be the type going to be the body of an internal table. That is the reason I'm going with type table of. Okay, and then item details. Okay, maybe it's okay. Header item. I thought I'm going to change. Let's find RESBD. I believe. I think I'm right. RESBD. So this accept more than one data. So table of RESBD. Am I right? Go to context. CAUFBD RESBD. CAUFBD RESBD. Okay, done. So, and I need a reference, so object for the Web Dynpro. So type ref2 interface and WD context node. Okay, so I need data reference because I need some methods which allows to enter the values, means the map the values whatever I'm passing to the data, passing to this data medium, work area and internal table, right? So let me have a hard coded values. So AUFNR. So I'm not going to pass many things. So 1, 2, 3, because it's very basic, so you're able to understand. I'm going to pass this, and I'm going to pass material at 1. Okay, and append CAUFD to IT this. Just do a clear statement, and then RSVD I'm going to have a plant. Okay, plant as okay, last one WRKS. Come on. $4,000. What else? Okay, I'm not sure. Just leave it. Because that is not important for this scenario, because if you want, just add the values whatever you need, or depends on your requirements. PD. Okay, so I need 2 records, so let me have this. It's 2 items actually, basically. Okay, one is 5,000, one is 4,000. Okay, so almost we are done, and now we need to have a method. So path get okay, I'll type it get node. Okay, yes. So I need this, and the node, the path node is available. Means I need the exact node, right? So and the node is available in the context. So go to context. So this is the node, and I'm going to pass a value for this header as well as the item. So I want this one also, node dot this value. Okay. So PPI good within single quotes, PPI underscore good underscore ISS underscore SL dot CAUFVD. Okay. So I'm get the node of it, and once it is done, you can pass the value with the help of the method called bind table. Okay, and it has a new items parameter, new item. So new item is from your internal table. So my internal table for this particular node is CABFT. That's it. Okay, and I need to pass a value for my item also, right? So for that, again, I need to get the node path get node, same thing, ppi underscore goods underscore iss underscore sl dot resbt. Was it? Then bind the value whatever I have added, means hard coded in the above steps. New items equal to it underscore resbd. That's it. Okay, save it. Okay, so we are done. Activated. So here just I hard coded the values for my first CA header as well as the item. So almost we are done. Now go to the application and execute, or you can just refresh as well. Just execute. Good. Zero object reference not possible. I believe I missed to initiate my object reference method change. Yep, it's not the right way. So I need to get the object reference. So it's nothing but WD context. Okay, and same thing over here. WD context. Okay. So it's getting the reference over here, then I'm binding the table. Just activate it. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, saying these are old ones. I think I closed it. Okay, let's go here. Execute again. Okay, so now it's asking me to just open it. So open it, and it has actually two slips because I passed two items. So process order, material, and items I passed only the plant, and plant 4,000, and then plant 5,000. Okay, so if you add multiple records, it might extend, or it's create another page to accommodate your data. So if we have so items, I'm going to increase maybe two more with different plant values. So this is going to be a 6,000 and this is going to be 7,000. Activate. And refresh. Open. So now you get two pages. So this is for 4,000 and 5,000, and the other one is for like 6,000 and 7,000. Okay, so this is the way which we are going to connect Adobe to the Web Dynpro level, and still we are not used the actual interactive, but this is a very small basic steps to connect your Adobe with the Web Dynpro component. Okay, just play around with this, and if you have any doubt, please let me know. So further videos will see more about interactive Adobe forms with Web Dynpro component as well. Okay, thank you so much for your time, and see you in the next video. Bye.